Friday, everyone. I hope everyone is well. Um, so good to see some faces. If you're able to and willing to, and in an area that allows, feel free to turn on your camera so that we can communicate. Um, this is our March assembly meeting. Almost done. There's 2 more months left in the semester. Um, as a just jumping into the agenda, let me pull it up real quickly. Does anyone have any fun life updates, anything cool? Um, while I pull this up.
Oh, I accepted my offer at UMD, so I'm gonna be here for more years.
That's exciting. It's very exciting. This was the most recent thing that I sent.
I have some cool news. Tomorrow at City Hall, there's going to be a flea market, I believe starting at 12. So that'll be very cool. I'll find the deets and put them in the chat in a little bit.
Thank you for that, Brandon. Materials for tomorrow's assembly meeting. Pulling up the agenda. Kicking us off as always, um, President's address. And Var, I did message in the chat. We do have, from my understanding, one new representative that was unable to get sworn in at last Assembly's meeting, Redwan. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. So in your address, you will also be administering the oath as well. But can I call for a motion to move to President's address?
Motion to move to President's address.
Seconded.
Okay, thank you. Um, so, wait, I don't want to butcher the name. Is it, Redwan?
Yes, Mr. Khan.
Okay. If you want, you can switch on your camera or leave it off if that's what you're comfortable with. But I'll swear you in right now. So please raise your right hand and repeat after me the oath of office.
Mhm.
In the presence of honored guests
In the presence of honored guests
and members here assembled,
and members here assembled,
I do so solemnly promise
I do so solemnly promise
and pledge
and pledge
that I will faithfully execute the duties
that I will faithfully execute the duties
of the Assembly
of the Assembly
as a program representative
as a program representative
of the graduate student government
of the graduate student government
to the best of my knowledge and ability,
to the best of my knowledge and ability,
to commit myself to the student government's
to commit myself to the student government
code of ethics,
code of ethics,
further the objectives of this student government,
further the objectives of the student government,
to serve my fellow graduate student community
to serve my fellow graduate student community
through engagement with my constituents,
through engagement to my
with my
constituents,
and
with my
voting
constituents,
and
and
voting
voting
according
according
to the preferences of my constituent body.
to the preference of my constituent body.
Okay, you can stop now. By the authority vested in me by the graduate student government, I now proclaim you duly installed as a program representative and voting member of the graduate student government assembly. So,
Thank you.
okay. So now moving forward to thank you. My mom made these Swaroop as my birthday gift. Okay, yeah. Now moving to my dress. So, I was supposed to have a meeting with President Pines yesterday in the morning, but that got rescheduled to Monday. On a side note, please, if anyone wants anything to be brought to the provost or the president's attention, I do meet with them pretty frequently. Please email me, and I would love to talk about the issues that you have in mind with them. That we're not able to directly communicate because of reachability issues. Um, Now, coming to what I've been up to, one major thing that I'm working on is having a graduate student voice regarding the workday. So this is something that we also discussed with the grad school meeting, and I've been going back and forth about this. I'm trying to figure out a way and try to have a basic committee of a few graduate students from different walks, because graduate students inherently have a little different needs as compared to undergrads, especially when it comes to jobs. We have part-time students who are working in dining, catering, etc., golf. We have 10 RGs, we have 20 RGs. We have students who are not working at all. We have international students, we have domestic students, and there are so many different categories with different graduate students of different needs. And it is really important to have different graduate students from these different subsections to sort of voice their opinions about the kind of things that they need, especially when it comes to workday. Um, so that is one major thing that I'm working on. Apart from that, I'm really doing a lot of administrative stuff, including attending a lot of council meetings, just helping out in general, solving a few internal issues that arise from time to time. Hopefully responding to your emails if you do send them to me. And it's always a pleasure to hear from any of you. So that's what I've been up to. Hopefully there are a few things that I need to discuss which are pertinent at this point in time with President Pines, especially with the Chinese students that Michael brought to our attention, and the Fulbright students, because apparently they are now not allowed to continue working in the US, and they have to immediately leave after their degree is over, which, to be honest, is something that should be looked into, because working in the industry is a very important and integral part of a lot of professional development that happens after your degree. So there are a few things that I need to discuss, but yes, if there's anything else, please let me know and I'll try to add them to my agenda ad hoc. So yeah, that was all that I had to dive into.
Thank you, Vara. Does anyone have any questions? Rose, go ahead.
So I wanted to ask if there's anything specific that President Pines was able to tell you about the letter to share information on Chinese researchers on campus. The Grad Labor Union has started, has been running this petition, has sent it to them, and as far as we know, they are still complying with the letter, even though like it is not a subpoena, like they do not actually have to respond to it, to my knowledge. So I'm wondering if there's any more specifics that you can give on that conversation.
Unfortunately, there are not, because I was supposed to have a meeting with him yesterday morning, and as I said, it got rescheduled to Monday. So I'll get to know more about it on Monday, and hopefully I can like address this matter in detail and let you guys know in the next assembly meeting. But yeah, I'll get to know on Monday as to what happens.
Okay, thanks.
Nora, go ahead.
Hi. I just wanted to confirm that you might be able to reach out to the graduate legal aid office to come speak next month, if that's possible.
So yes, I don't remember. I've not checked my email yet for today, but Devon, are you able to like have them as a part of our agenda? If we do have time, then I would be happy to email them and get them onboarded.
We've had
Absolutely.
them talk in the past. Sorry for interrupting.
Go ahead.
Nora, Epidemiology, School of Public Health. We've had them talk in the past, like 3 years ago. Of course, I would do
Mm.
everything out of order because of my ADHD. And it was really helpful. I just have no working memory and I don't remember anything that they said. So it's been like 2 years. It'd be nice to see, especially now with what's going on, what they can offer students in terms of advocacy and support in light of potential issues they might come up with at like the airport, at certain checkpoints, etc.
No, I totally agree with that. And I would be happy to email Debbie about it. I just wanted to confirm with Devon if we have the time to accommodate them. So I can
Michael,
get.
go ahead. I was gonna say Michael and I are already touching base. And Michael, go ahead. You're up.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say, like, we're already gonna invite GLAO to come to speak about their budget for next year. So I think we can also tell them to like save a little time for other kinds of questions too.
Is
But
this
I
in the
assume this will
next?
also, I think it is, if it's not the next one, then it's the one after, but I think they will have to present
Okay.
next month. Yeah.
Yeah. Is this based on the conversation we were having about okay. Got it.
Other
Yeah,
questions?
technically GSG needs to confirm their budget. So y'all will be hopefully briefed on it next month as, yeah. Anyway, I'll talk about more budget stuff, but you'll hear from GLAO.
Perfect. Other questions? Seeing none at this.
I
Colin, go ahead.
I haven't raised my hand in Zoom in so long, and so I forget how to do it. But I'll figure that out in a second. Hi, I'm Helen. I am ENTM PhD student, and my PI and I were planning to hire a couple of undergrads this summer, but I don't know if anybody else has experiences with the hiring freeze. I don't know if you know anything about the hiring freeze, especially for undergrads working with graduate students who have funding that's not like federal funding, or it's not the university funding. It's like funding that we've gotten from like other locations. I don't know if you know anything about that or if anybody knows anything about that, but yeah, I don't know if you could talk about that with that's possible.
I can bring that up. So I do know of a kind of a hiring freeze, but I'm not sure if it's pertinent to undergrads because I was talking to one of the administrators who did mention that they're trying to not really hire as less as possible, but I'm not sure if it's related to what you're bringing up. Though I would be happy to touch base upon this with Preston Pines on Monday. I feel like Keegan has something to add to this particular thing and not something different. Is that right, Keegan?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I was just going to say that from my understanding, having spoken with a couple of departments, university departments at this point, it is a per school and per department thing. As is most things at UMD, there's very rarely a centralized policy on this sort of thing. So there might be I know that hiring freezes are happening to varying degrees at varying levels across the university, though. So President Pines may or may not know additional information about that, but it's worth bringing up. So, and the provost might also know. That's another person who might be able to weigh in. But if I had to guess, it's probably department specific.
Yeah. Okay, sounds good. Yeah, I think our department is just not hiring anybody, which is kind of a bummer. But anyways, okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you all for your questions. Thank you, Var, for your report. Moving along, if there's anything else we want to discuss on these matters, we can discuss them during representative forum later today. May I have a motion to move to the VPLA's address?
Motion to move to the VPLA address.
Seconded.
Awesome. I guess that's me. Just a few quick reminders and remarks. In sharing over the agenda, you all received an additional copy of the overview of Robert's Rules of Order. I just wanted to remind everyone that whether we're in person or via Zoom, that we always, based on our bylaws and our Constitution, we still have to adhere to those. Um, and so that's the simple things when I say, can I call for a motion to move something along? Any representative can call for a motion. Any representative could second that motion. Um, Anyone can speak on anything as long as they state their name and their program in which they represent. So if you have any questions, concerns about that, please refer to uh, the Robert's Rules of Order guide that I shared via email. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Additionally, I also shared another copy of the representative toolkit. I know it's a little bit out of date, but that's still what we reference when you're doing your service. So if you have any questions about what your role is in regards to uh, speaking up or writing legislation or event funding requests for Michael. Like if you have any questions, a lot of that toolkit that I provided has a lot of helpful information on how to conduct yourself and how you can express yourself in these meetings. And so just reminding everyone uh, that unless you are going to be called on, unless for some reason we have time constraints, but that is typically the way in which we conduct our business and our meetings. And also the last thing that I want to emphasize is part of your responsibilities as a graduate student government representative is attending your committee meetings. If you have any issues attending your committees, please speak with your committee head about that. And then if they're not responsive or if you need someone else to fall back on, please let the executive team know. But if you have any issues, please discuss that with your committee heads. It is the expectation, it is part of your responsibility to attend committee meetings, to be actively engaged, and to deliver this information that we share in these meetings back to your programs. And so if you are having a difficult time doing that, please let us know as it is part of your responsibilities. So that's all I have. Questions? Seeing none. Moving nicely along. On the agenda, the VPFA's address is next. Could I call for a motion to move to the VPFA's address?
Motion to move to the VPFA address.
Thank you.
Seconded.
Perfect. Michael, you're up.
Thanks so much. First of all, I just want to give you a little preview or, kind of repeating what I said before, that budget season is coming up. So that means that I will be drafting a budget for next year and presenting that all to you at our next meeting. And then the meeting after that is where you will vote to approve or not the budget and can make amendments and all those sorts of things. I think likewise with GLAO, they will present their budget to you as well. And I think we vote on that, I believe, in May as well. But speaking of budgets, I figured I should owe all of you an update as to what our budget looks like now and what we've spent money on. So if I can figure out which screen to share, I will show you our balances for what we have still in the budget. So event funding requests, we have had a few requests, but we still have lots of money in the pool. So if you know folks who are thinking about planning events, tell them we have lots of money and want them to plan events and want to give them money. So we still have $7,200 left. Reminder, groups can request up to $1,000. If it's $500 or under, the Budget and Finance Committee can approve that, and we can do that pretty quickly. So again, if you know of any graduate student groups that are looking to plan events, please shake them, have them apply for money. We also have a program which has kind of gone out the wayside, but I would like to revive it, which is grants for graduate students. It only got $1,000 budgeted to it because I think people forgot what it did. But folks can apply to present their own original work at conferences, particularly if they've applied for other stuff and have gotten denied at the university. We have money for that. We also had some ideas in the Budget and Finance Committee, maybe to expand this program to folks who want to attend professional conferences, but that is a discussion, I think, for the future. But that fund does exist. Graduate community events. So we've been putting on monthly events at Terp Zone, but we still have $8,385 left in this budget unless I'm missing something. So, oh my God, community planning or anyone else who feels like we should have events, I encourage you. We have a big pot of money for it. Likewise, town halls, $500, committee funds, committees, if you want to have snacks at your committee meeting, or I don't know, buy everyone lunch. We have money for that. Community outreach as well, we have $1,000. Staffing, our costs, I put these little totals in here because all of our budgets are for step 3 GAs, which are doctoral students who have advanced to candidacy. And because our president and our VP LA are master's students, we have a little bit of extra funds there. And we did not hire a speaker of the assembly this year because Devon has been very competent at running these meetings. Our grad conference coordinator, I believe we have some legislation about that, but that is a position that is not technically filled yet. And we also don't have a note taker this time. I think because we decided that we would put all of these on YouTube, which kind of generates stuff already. So, you know, these are funds that are still in the budget. Maybe it makes me think for next year, maybe we shouldn't budget to have them, but this is a discussion that I'm happy to have with other folks. For office supplies, we're at 0 because we bought a color laser printer, which has yet to arrive, but we hope that it will arrive in time for grad, and so we can print all of our materials there. We have a very old inkjet printer that I bricked, earlier this year when I installed a recommended driver update. So it has been a nice brick since then. Printing, I took some money from that to afford the printer as well. So we have $69 there. This SORC number is just something that we pay into SORC to go to our budget manager. So we don't have any money left in that. It goes directly to the SORC budget. Outreach and advocacy, we still have $500. Executive team travel is $1,466. Approved travel for GSG, $500. Although maybe we owe some folks reimbursements for going to Advocacy Day. Talk to me. Discretionary fund is still $1,000. Assemblies and meetings, I think for our room rentals, we haven't spent that much yet. Although I think I'm also missing the last time when we bought food. So forget that. I think that might be a lot lower.
It's basically 0, can confirm.
It's basically 0 now. Okay, cool. I'll get those numbers and I'll update it, but it's basically 0. But as you see, we have money in other places, for instance, the discretionary fund. So yeah, these things I'll just say in closing, these numbers can be like moved around and finagled. If it's within a category, the Budget and Finance Committee, me in consultation with the Budget and Finance Committee, can like, you know, if we needed to like allocate more money for a town hall, we can do that pretty easily. But if we want to do it across categories, that is something that y'all, the assembly, would have to do. So with that, I end my time and I'm happy to take any questions if folks want. Nora.
Hi, Nora, epidemiology, PhD program, School of Public Health. I was just in the chat and Keegan responded, but I was wondering, have you heard of any interest in grad prom this year? Do you think it'll happen? Yeah. You have the money for it.
We for sure have the money for it. Do we have the energy of folks who want to plan it? That is a great question, but we definitely have the money for it. So I encourage folks, if they are feeling inclined to plan, to do it because.
Yeah, I'll jump in and say, like, although I don't have the capacity to be super involved in the planning process myself, I do have the capacity as well as the funding. I am happy to help reserve rooms, place food orders, etc. That is up to community development. That's in their wheelhouse. But yeah, if people are interested, we would love to do it. And I will make sure it happens if there is interest. I'm just not gonna, I do not have the capacity to drum up interest, if that makes sense.
And we
Um,
definitely also have the capacity to like publicize these things on all of our like socials and to newsletters and stuff like that. But the like logistical planning, I think maybe a committee would have to do, or interested folks in general. But yes, please do. We have the money.
I think I can lend my moral support for whoever wants to plan these. So
Yeah, I can also say I'll for sure be there if it happens. I can help organize hands-on day of. It's the planning stuff that is time intensive. As Ria will update you all on in grad in just a moment.
Moving along. We'll have like a double whammy at this point, Rhea and Keegan giving us the best grad updates possible. Can I call for a motion to move to the Chief of Staff's address?
Motion to move to
Motion.
the chief. Oh, I'll second you.
Okay, motion to move to the Chief of Staff's address.
Seconded.
Okay, hi everyone. I hope you guys are doing well. I just wanted to take a minute to talk about the Graduate Research Appreciation Day, or GRAD 2025, which is going to be happening on Wednesday, April 9th, so just under 2 weeks from now, right here on campus. It's going to be in STAMP. It's going to be an all-day conference that highlights the incredible research being done by graduate students across all different disciplines and fields. So we're inviting any and all grad students to sign up to present. And I want to emphasize that it doesn't have to be a brand new project. If you have something you've already presented in a class, lab, or conference, it's going to be a great opportunity to get more eyes on your work and connect with students and faculty across campus to get their input in as well. We're going to have poster sessions, oral presentations, and food throughout the day, and even prizes for top presenters. So it's a great resume builder and a low pressure space to practice sharing your research. The deadline to present is going to be April 5th, and the link is now live. I can put it in the chat as well. So we really encourage you guys to sign up if you have any research. And then if you're not planning to present, we really appreciate your help in spreading the word in your departments. So whether that's through listservs, group chats, or just sharing the flyer with a few peers, we'd greatly appreciate that. So thanks, and then let me know if you guys have any questions or you want a copy of the flyer to send around.
Nora, go ahead.
Epidemiology, School of Public Health. Thanks, Ria. I don't have any questions other than to say that I've done grad twice and it's a great experience. Free food, lots of cool people doing research, especially if you're a PhD student, research is your thing. You get to hear about what all sorts of other researchers are doing, which is exciting. And yeah, it's a nice time. It's a low stakes presentation too. Like there's small rooms, people with similar fields as you are all presenting on sort of similar related topics, but maybe not. And yeah, it's nice. It's very low key. It's a very good way to practice oral presentations if you've only done posters, and it's a great way to start if you've only done posters or haven't even done a poster before.
Yeah, and to add to that, extended abstracts are also an option. And so if you are in I am thinking about this research, I've done some lit review and I'm just in the preliminary stages. I'm curious if anyone thinks it's a good idea. You can sign up for that too. That we do have poster workshops. So yeah, please do show up.
Thank you for that. We can discuss that a little bit more in depth during representative forum. So just moving along the agenda, can I call for a motion to move to the Director of Ops address?
Motion to move to the Director of Ops address.
Seconded.
Keegan, you're up.
All right. So I'm gonna pick up right where we left off. Grad has been the all-consuming thing. So for those of you who don't know, but I think I've said this before, but just for the record, the primary events that GSG runs each year takes the form of the shuttle service during the summer, and of course, Grad. Grad has been running for almost since GSG has been a thing. I think the first Grad was in the late 80s. So this is our longest running event by far, and certainly the most prestigious and important one, I would say, from the rest of the university's perspective. So we do really value everyone's support and showing up. Even if you don't have research of your own, please do still show up, because in fact, one of the biggest pieces of feedback we've received over the years is that presenters wish we had more people who are just there to look at their research and ask questions, and not just other presenters, which is what often ends up happening. So please do show. We are anticipating between 75 and 100 people this year. It has been larger in previous years, but it has been hard to get attendance since the pandemic for everything. Yeah, and as Michael says in the chat, just present a class paper, anything. It doesn't have to be something you're even necessarily planning on submitting. This is a opportunity for you to practice or just brainstorm whatever you like. I did put a link to the landing page in chat. There is another option if you would like to judge. If you've ever, and we're looking primarily for people who have been reviewers or discussants at actual conferences. But if you have any previous experience doing that kind of review stuff, would be interested in judging panels, please let us know. Judges are important because they allow us to select winners of cash prizes. Because we do give cash prizes to the best presentations. I think there's first through fifth place, and then we have 2 poster awards as well. So yeah, there's a financial incentive for people who would like to participate. Yeah, so that is that. I'll leave it there for now. But you won't hear about it again before Grad happens, because Grad's happening in just under 2 weeks. So please do reach out if you're interested in participating as well. With that said, you're going to hear from me again on Grad coordinator revision stuff. Basically, the hiring process, because of Workday, shifted, and it has been very hard to onboard poor Rhea, who's already working. And we have legislation to address that. But just so you know, that has been one of the snags this year, and I'll talk about it more when I'm presenting that legislation. The other piece of important information, 2 other pieces. First is regarding bylaw and constitution revisions. With my condolences to my long-suffering bylaws review committee, I was supposed to have a preliminary report ready for everyone to review this session. It didn't happen, obviously. I will be sending out by the end of today a list of proposed constitutional reviews for the assembly to consider. And thank you, Michael. My PhD advisor is going to try to actually murder me at some point. So I appreciate the condolences and pray for me. But anyway, so I'm what I was going to say is that so the process is this. I'm going to send these out to you all by the end of today, or maybe early in the morning tomorrow, depending on how late I work tonight. And that will be the constitution amendments, or proposed constitutional amendments. What needs to happen is at our next meeting, you will all need to vote to move those constitutional amendments forward. And once you do that, then they go into the general election and the student body votes on them. Will also be happening next at our next meeting is that you will be voting on the bylaws amendments, and those are all strictly handled by the assembly. That's a much larger document, and it is not going to be done by tonight, but will hopefully be done. My goal is to have it done by our next committee meeting, which is, I think, 2 weeks from now or something like that. So yeah, within 2 weeks, we're going to hopefully have that to you all. please do, when I do send out these the Constitution Amendment proposals, please do give your feedback if you can, and any thoughts, like everyone. This is for anyone in the assembly, because once we have that feedback, we also want to incorporate it and then send it to governance committee for review, since the Constitution is the part that they do need to actually review. So that they can give their recommendations as well before our next meeting. But the long and short of it is, we have to agree on that next meeting, and also we have to agree on assembly on bylaw amendments next meeting, and also we have a budget to confirm next meeting. So next meeting is gonna be very busy. Or I guess, is it May that we have the budget meeting? I forget. Regardless, it's gonna be a stacked couple of months. I also, speaking of process next month we will be starting the general election prep. So I believe at the end of next month, or sometime before the end of April, we will be sending out the nomination forms for the officer positions. And I think I'm trying to think if this is the right timeline. So yeah, I believe we will be sending out the officer forms for the next general election in April. You all have a couple of weeks to nominate yourselves, basically, and then the actual elections run in May. So be prepared for that as well. And if you're considering running for one of the officer positions here, that is a good thing to start preparing for. We'll have more updates from elections committee as we get closer. The two positions that are hired, the chief of staff and the director of operations, will not be up for any sort of election because they're elected options, but you will have the chance to apply for those positions starting in around June usually. So that's what you should be expecting. Okay, I think I have covered everything and I'm dangerously close to going over, so I will call it there.
Thank you, Keegan. I'm going to ask that if anyone has any pertinent questions, please throw them into the chat. I'm also watching the chat too, so we'll try to get that situated. And yeah, if anyone has other questions for Keegan, we can also discuss them during representative forum. Or if you want to throw them in the chat, please do that as well. But moving quickly into the agenda, for some of you, you might know that the Dean of Students, Andrew Goodwin, was going to join us today. Unfortunately, a personal situation came up in her schedule, but we are more than happy to have Dr. Kevin Pitt join us, who is the Assistant Dean of Students. I hope I'm not perfect. So please join me in welcoming him, and I'm just going to call for a motion to move to Dr. Pitt's presentation.
Motion to continue on to Dr. Kevin Pitt's presentation.
Seconded.
Perfect. Dr. Pitt, the floor is yours.
Thanks, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Awesome. Do you mind if I share my screen? Is that okay?
absolutely.
Awesome. Thumbs up if you can see that. Awesome. Thanks, folks. Thanks for having me. Fun fact, when I was a graduate student here, I'm not going to say what year, but I was vice president of graduate student government. So got a lot of love for graduate student government. And a lot of love for my man Brandon in there. Me and him used to work together back in the day. So it's always good to see you. I think he owes me, Brandon, you owe me lunch, man. So we got to connect, man. You owe me
I do owe you lunch this time.
But good to see everybody. Really have a lot of respect for the work you all do. You're not, your work is not going in vain. We're always keeping in track of what you're all doing, and we care a lot about graduate students and understand the struggle. There is a new office on this campus. We're about 3 years old, so I say new. We're new-ish. Dean of Students Office. Some of you may have heard of us. Some of you may not have. We cover all students. I think it's important to do this presentation because graduate students fall into this other category of many of you teach as well. So we support faculty, graduate students who may be teaching undergraduates, whatever the case may be as well. So if this service is for you, if you're going through some challenging times, and the students who you may be teaching are going through challenging times as well. So this is our office. I'll go through what each of these folks do. Andrew, Dr. Goodwin sent her regards. She had to attend a funeral today. So I had to step in for her gladly. But she does send her regards. So if you ever need either one of us, please feel free to reach out. We can consult with you about a case or a situation or a student if you need some help, which I'll talk to you about in a few seconds. So there are kind of four pillars to this Dean of Students stool. And some of you, if you've gone to other universities, you may be familiar with the Dean of Students concept as an office. This is very new to our campus, but a very old concept for other universities. So our Vice President, Dr. Patty Perillo, who some of you may know, she, when she was hired, she said, you know, one of the kind of pieces of her negotiation was that she wanted to start a Dean of Students office. So it started with Andrea and I. We were those two hires, and we've been able to build this thing out. So we got student support services, which I lead. And so I deal with any student who's a threat to themselves or others, to put it simply. So a student who may want to harm themselves or may have homicidal ideations, want to harm others. So we work with the police, the counseling center, behavioral health. And so if you're teaching a class and you, we get this a lot, you assign a journal article, not a journal article, but a journal, self-reflection journal. A student says, hey, I've been having suicidal ideations because I went through something that was pretty difficult. You can submit that to our office. We'll call that student in, have a conversation, really just soft conversation, and connect that student with resources. That usually works 95% of the time. And we will follow up with you and let you know how things are going, and what we can update you on. If you're going through something similar, we can offer that same support to you. We have student conduct. My unit and the director of student conduct, we work closely together. They sit on our threat assessment team, the director of that office. And so oftentimes if a student is having, let's say, homicidal ideations, we can work with the police and student conduct to put some mechanisms in place to mitigate that threat. We have family engagement, which is also really important. They do a lot of events on campus, hugs and high fives, a lot of kind of community building events, how to keep parents connected to what's happening on campus. But also they're important when things go left with a student. We can reach out to a parent. One of the newest kind of stools to the legs of this stool is essential services, essential needs services, which is basically an office that helps with students who are housing insecure, food insecure, financial insecurity. And they have a point person for each of those areas. And you'd be surprised, a lot of our students here, even graduate students who are on the margins with terms of food insecurity and housing insecurity. And so we partner with a variety of community organizations, campus organizations to assure that we can help those students who are in need. And again, like that scenario I mentioned earlier, if you're talking to a student who's, you're just noting something's off. They may be, their appearance is different. You have a relationship or they write something in a reflection journal about food insecurity, housing insecurity. That's something that you want to have a conversation with that student about. And then, you know, you can refer them to our office and we can get them support. So I won't go through this ad nauseum because I know you all have a packed agenda. But our vision is to support students who are in need. Anything that happens outside the classroom, inside the classroom, that's not academic related, we can support. Now, I say not academic related, not in terms like we have this thick wall in between the academic affairs, but all that stuff connects, right? You're a student, but if you're housing insecure, food insecure, you can't function properly in the classroom, and we know that. But we don't deal with academic policies. We partner with our peers, assistant deans, and associate deans in the colleges. When a student needs to withdraw, change a major, get extra time on an exam, we don't want to kind of step into their lane. We partner with them to help that student get the resources. Our values, of course, and there's a lot going on in the world when it comes to DIJ. One thing that I really appreciate about Dr. Perillo is that we remain committed to ensuring that we're looking through a DIJ lens when we're meeting with our students in terms of how we analyze our data or their populations that we're not serving. We want to make sure that we're doing that. So I'm in charge of the data for the entire Dean of Students umbrella. So I'm always looking for areas where we have blind spots and areas where we could improve our work. We really see ourselves as advocates, and the easiest way for me to describe what we do is that we reduce administrative friction for students. We reduce administrative friction for the students who come to us. And so what myself and Andrea Goodwin, we have a lot of political capital on campus. We know a lot of people. We can make a phone call for a student. So if instead of a student having to reach out to 3, 4, 5 offices, we can help that student who's in crisis kind of jump to the front of the line, so to speak, because they're in such bad shape and need support. So advocating for a student, not doing the work for them, but obviously if a student is incapacitated in a really bad place, we can help advocate and smooth things out for them quickly. So again, academic, we partner with our academic affairs folks, physical health, mental health, financial. I do a lot of crisis management. And so threat assessments, when someone says, hey, I want to harm myself, or I'm thinking about harming my roommate, or I'm harming my professor, God forbid, we want to be able to step in and offer that student support, but also protect the faculty member, protect you if you're teaching a graduate student, to ensure that everything's okay and that you can continue on with your research, your scholarship, your teaching uninhibited. So I kind of mentioned this. We deal with all that stuff, right? Anything you can imagine. This is not an all-inclusive list, but these are the types of things that we encounter in our office. We partner with different folks, graduate student legal aid, ombuds, all these different, we know all these people, we have them on speed dial. We're able to make things move quicker for a student, graduate, undergraduate, if they need support. Essential needs services, which I talked about before. We have a great program with foster students on campus called Fostering Terp Success. We just hired a coordinator for first generation student support, which is an area that's building across the country, is supporting first year students. And financial wellness is another area that's really big now. If you look at the research, a lot of the literature out there, graduate students need that support too. So those services are open to you as well. We just hired a really amazing financial wellness coordinator who is doing a lot of great work with graduate students and undergraduate students to talk about how do you manage your finances inside and outside of Maryland once you make that transition. So typically when a student, you may wonder, what happens if I refer a student? Are they getting kicked out, or what happens? I do a lot of listening, right? So I'm here to calm a student down if at all possible. We're not magicians, right? We can't just make problems go away, but we listen to concerns. I have a kind of an encyclopedic memory of everything that's happening on this campus and every resource that's available, so I can connect a student to a resource that they don't even know about. And I respond to emerging needs. So I have to move quickly. I have to move with urgency, and with care. And then amplifying, right? So it's not just enough to meet students. If we're seeing trends about a certain department or about a certain professor, we want to amplify those to the provost, to the department chair, to ensure that this problem doesn't keep occurring, right? We want to mitigate trends that are negative if we hear about them. So safety and care, if you're teaching a class and you feel unsafe, there are things that you can do. You're not alone. You're not alone, right? We can work with you to talk through how, we've come to classes and talked to students. We've talked to a student one-on-one, pull them out of a class and say, hey, you're making your faculty member uncomfortable. What's going on here? We've had accommodations, right? Different accommodations for certain students. Their work is pivoted to remote. With their agreement, of course, we can't violate student civil rights, but also being able to make sure that there's a positive relationship between the faculty or the graduate student teaching that course. I'm just going to kind of skip that piece. One thing I'll highlight is that we connect the dots. So we are aware of a lot of things that you may not know about a student. So it's always best if you have a question to call my office, call me, call Andrew and say, hey, I got a weird feeling about a student and my spidey senses are going off. I'm worried that they're sleeping in their car. I overheard them talking to a friend by sleeping in their car. I've heard, they wrote in their journal, their weekly reflection journal that XYZ happened, and I'm concerned about their mental health. Their grade, they were an A student, B student, and the grade slipped dramatically. They're not participating as much as they used to. Um, I may not be able to tell you because there's a FERPA law that governs student privacy, but you may mention a student. I say, you know what? I can't tell you what I know, but you should refer that student to the office. Right? I have a database where I can look up anything about a student, if they've gone to the counseling center or not, if they're a threat, if they have a criminal record. I have access to all these records about a student and their behavioral history, right, that you may not have access to, and that can help you give you that perspective. So again, myself and Andrew, we sit on the beta team, which is kind of the most severe level threat. I chair another team called the care team, where we kind of work with, it's below beta, but we work with these different units, which you see on your screen, to ensure that a student gets the support that they need. And if we need to elevate a student to beta, we can, but care is more about just wrapping our arms around a student administratively to make sure that they don't rise to the beta threat level and that they get the support that they need. So larger scale issues, a student who may have a weapon, let's say, or threatened to have a weapon. We work with behavioral health, police, residence life, if they live in the residence halls, the counseling center, to make sure that we can mitigate that threat. And so this is kind of a national thing. Every campus you will go to has some form of this, whether they call it TAT, threat assessment team, or beta. They kind of work in the shadows a bit, but we are here, and that system can respond pretty quickly and mobilize quickly if needed. Again, for some of you who may be faculty or may be teaching, there's assistance programs, there's university resources. Folks who may stay in Maryland after the PhD is done and become faculty, there's different resources there for you as well. But don't get so hung up on the word faculty. Well, you say, I'm just, I'm a PhD just student. Anything that I talked about today in terms of threat assessment or needs are available to you if you are teaching a class, right? And so if you're not feeling comfortable with a student in your class or students making you feel uncomfortable, let us know, right? Again, we're not magicians, and just because you feel uncomfortable doesn't mean that we can just magically remove a student. There's a whole lot of federal laws that, prohibit us from interfering with a student's academic progress. But there are things that can happen, right? Oftentimes, when a student comes in to meet with me after they're upset about a grade, or they're upset about something that you said, that after that meeting with me, that threat usually is mitigated, right? 9 times out of 10, right? And so just having that conversation, the student will leave my space knowing that that's not going to be tolerated, and that you, as the person in charge of that course, has the institution has their back, right? So that's really important. So here's our information here. Again, it's on our website. I'm here to support. You can do a referral on our website. And I can send these slides to you. Is it Devon? I want to say you wrong. Devon? I want to say
Devon.
Devon. I'm sorry. My
Yes.
apologies.
No, you're all good.
I will send these to you. And so you can have them, and I can come to your class too. We can come to, if you're teaching, we can come to your class and talk. One thing I didn't talk about, which is kind of a sensitive topic, is often, this is a reality. Students oftentimes are successful in their suicide attempts. And if you are teaching a course in this, one of your students, you'll probably hear from us. And if you want someone to come to class and talk about that, we can do that. You don't have to do that alone. But just know that if a student is successful in their attempt, you will be notified by our office as the instructor for that course. And a lot of folks will say, "Oh man, I don't know what to say to the class. I don't know what to say to the classmates." We can help you come up with talking points. If you're not comfortable with that, we can show up and talk for you, right? And offer those students counseling center resources and things like that. So the point is, there's an apparatus of support around you. You're not in this alone. Teaching in 2025 is perilous. We get it. Researching in 2025 is perilous. We get it. So you're not alone in that struggle. And we're here to support. So I hope I did not go over time. I was trying to be efficient with my time.
No, you were all good, Dr. Pitt. Thank you so much. And if you have, we'll probably use the next 5 minutes to answer any questions that students might have.
Yeah.
Starting with Nora.
Hi, Dr. Pitt. Thank you so much for your talk and for your services that you do. I know some of the people in the clinic, and they also do great work. I just also put my question in the chat. We're mandatory reporters as employees, as TAs. Does that mean then that we should always come to you then if we have any kind of information?
Well, it depends on what it is. If a student discloses to you that they've been sexually assaulted, it's best that you report that, right? I always say it's better to report than not report. You don't want to expose yourself legally by sitting on information and and this has happened, right? At other universities, we kind of keep a track of the case law. And Title IX is in a weird place right now. I don't want to get into all that, but things are weird. But as a practice, it's better to report and tell the student, say, hey, I'm a confidential, I'm a private resource. So what I'm telling you is not going to go out, but it is going to go up to the proper people, right? And so I always tell instructors that, right? If a student says, hey, you want to hear a student out and say, hey, I've been sexually assaulted, I don't know what to do. So let me stop you there. Thank you for sharing that. I'm sorry you've gone through that. I have to do this at least once a week. And say, listen, there's an office OCRSM that I need to report this to. And this is not going to go to your classmates. I'm not going to be telling any of my peers about this, but this is something I need to report. If somebody reports you, hey, I was robbed, you can say, hey, I need to see, have you reported this to UMPD? You wouldn't necessarily have to report to that up, right? But something like sexual assault, abuse, a lot of that stuff that falls into OCRSM, the Office of Sexual, I always forget the acronym, misconduct, that office, they can support that student and they work closely with us. So you don't have to, not every single thing is mandatory. If you have a question about a kind of a weird gray situation, just call Dr. Goodwin, and we can walk you through it.
Great, thank you so much.
Brandon.
Thank you very much for that great presentation. I don't have a question, but just a comment. I know that I personally have leaned on the Dean of Students office to have presentations for my students. So I implore everyone on the call to definitely take advantage of that as a resource. I oversee 36 student mentors in the business school, and those students have benefited from speaking with Dr. Goodwin on what they can do to guide their students through understanding how to use an omnibuds, understanding how to report bad behavior from professors, how to audit grades, how to take advantage of your excused absence and things like that. So if you're ever finding yourself teaching a course or leading a group of undergrads, the Dean of Students office is definitely a great place to lean on to gain some expertise and give your students great information and connections.
Yeah. In the office, thank you, Brandon, for jogging my memory. It's Office of Civil Rights and Sexual Misconduct. It's a tongue twister. So yeah, that's OCRSM. Michael.
Hi, yeah, thank you so much. I just had a quick question about, I think you said earlier something about like, oh, if we see like trends with a certain department or professor, like to amplify these to the provost, to the department chair. Can you say a little bit more? I mean, I assume it depends on the situation, but like what kind of attention is your office or whatever like able to give to these things in the sense of like what happens? Do y'all sit down and talk to departments about these things? Like, I'm just curious how that like generally plays out. Thanks.
Yeah, so when I say that, I say we do that with a lot of political care and tact, right? And so obviously it's something like hey, I'm a student from China, and I realize that me and my classmates from China are being graded unfairly by this particular professor. I'm making this up, right? And so, we get situations like that, right? And so we would, me or Dr. Goodwin would reach out to the department chair and say, hey, let's schedule, a meeting. These are, allegations aren't facts, right? And so we may say, hey, we want to alert you to this. We've met with 7 students who've said this professor's name in regards to some type of mistreatment or unfairness in grading, things like that. And we'll partner with them. And we may not share those names or anything like that, but say, hey, on the aggregate, this is kind of what we're seeing. Thoughts? Do you all have any concerns about this? There may be other offices that be brought in, right? So we'll just elevate those concerns. And sometimes we'll get oftentimes, and I hate to say this, we get a lot of PhD students who are, who have Satan as an advisor, right? And I shouldn't say this. You're recording this, right? But hey, it is what it is. I just finished my PhD, so I get it, right? Your advisor is Dr. Satan, and right, and you're having a tough time. We have to advocate for a student, and right, and we may say, hey, is there any way we can talk to the department chair to get this person switched? Yeah, we will advocate and elevate things up in a very political, tactful way, but to use our political capital to get things done for a student.
Thank you.
Perfect. I don't see any other questions at this time. Please join me in thanking Dr. Pitt and joining us. Thank you for the incredible information that you shared, Dr. Pitt. And if you want to, I think I CC'd you on the agenda and all that on that email thread. So if you just want to hit reply all and send the slideshow or send your contact information, that would be certainly helpful. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And we're here for you. Please use us as a resource, even if it's one-on-one. I will meet with you one-on-one and talk to you, walk you through a problem. So thanks for the time, and I'll talk to you all soon. Brandon, you owe me lunch. I'll see you soon, brother.
Dr. Pitt, I got to touch base with you too.
Yeah.
Someone was trying to connect us. All of these folks know how much I talk about my alma mater, Rutgers. So
Oh,
someone
yeah.
someone that has ties to Rutgers, I definitely got to connect with them.
Yeah, just finished my PhD there, and I went to undergrad there. So let's
Good. We'll touch base. I'll send you an email.
All right, brother. Y'all take it easy.
Take care.
Bye.
Perfect. So moving on, I see Dr. McCree. I hope I don't think I am perfect. We are honored to have you join us. Dr. McCree is the Director of Academic and Professional Development in the Graduate School and also the Director of the Graduate School Writing Center. So she has so much wisdom she's going to share with us. So just moving along in the agenda, could I call for a motion to move to Dr. McCree's presentation?
Motion to proceed with Dr. McCree's presentation.
Seconded.
Perfect. Dr. McCree, the floor is yours. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for the invitation, and I will share some slides too. And hopefully you're seeing those, and oops. As always, my desk at home is small. Where am I doing? Okay, there's the Go link too. So you all know by now Go links are case sensitive. So, and I have it at the end again as well. But thanks so much. I really appreciate the invitation to come and talk to GSG. And so I have just a handful of slides that explain a little bit about the office that I oversee broadly in the graduate school, talk more specifically about the work that I do at the graduate school writing center, which we've renamed. I'll talk about that in a second, and then hopefully answer any questions that any of you have about all of that. Sorry, why am I having trouble? So I'm going to kind of explain a little bit about who my team is, a little bit about what we do, and then answer your questions. So, as I'm going to say it wrong. it's not Devon.
Devon, you're all
Devon,
good.
I knew I was
You're all
saying it wrong. You
good.
get it in your head wrong. Devon said, I'm the head of the Office of Academic and Professional Development in the graduate school. What does any of that mean? We are basically the people that do the forward-facing programming in the graduate school. So it consists of me, E. Howe, who is our program director for career and professional development, Simone Warwick-Bell, who's our graduate academic counselor, and I'll say a little bit more about all of these. You probably also, we also, this also includes the Office of Postdoctoral Affairs, and probably you already know Dr. Blessing Inekwe, because she's the faculty mentor for the GSG, right? But as the director of the Office of Postdoctoral Affairs, she also kind of falls under the big picture of what we do in terms of supporting not graduate students in that case, but postdocs, but a lot of that programming works together. And then we currently also have a postdoc in Charlotte Mecklenburg. We love Blessing too. So, and she does a lot to keep us informed about what's happening with GSG. So we appreciate that. You can find out more. There's the link to all of us. But again, kind of what do we do in general? We were created to provide support for graduate students and then for postdocs as well. That's really meant to complement and expand whatever you're getting from your unit. So some institutional memory that should be long gone because it happened over a decade ago and probably none of you remember. The Writing Center itself was formed in response to graduate student demands. Graduate students wanted support around writing. I think they also were looking for support around teaching writing in their own classes and kind of some things around how to deal with issues of plagiarism for classes that they were teaching as well. And the dean at the time responded by hiring a postdoc to create a writing center. That postdoc did an amazing job, went on to get a tenure track job somewhere. And then I've been running the center for the last 10 years. I'll just add, it's the best job in the world as far as I'm concerned. I was the director of academic writing for almost a decade, so that brought you English 101. I love working with graduate students. It's an absolute privilege every day to learn about the amazing research that you all do. And particularly at times like these, it keeps me energized that hopefully the world will be a better place someday. So a little bit more specifically then, what does this support do, right? We're supposed to be complementing and augmenting communication related support that you're getting from your units. That's very much what the Center for Writing and Oral Communication is meant to do, anything communication related. Dr. Howe's office around doctoral career support is meant to complement and augment whatever kind of doctoral career development support you get from your unit. And I will say that's the only office that is limited to doctoral students as opposed to master's students. And I can explain why if you'd like me to. And Simone Warwick-Bell's office, the academic counselor, she does a number of things. There's a significant overlap. I joined early in part to hear either Andrea Goodwin or in this case, Dr. Pitt, to hear a little bit more about what they were saying about the graduate dean's office. Simone's position was created before that position was created widely for the entire campus. So our graduate academic counselor position has existed a little bit before that. And so there's a lot of overlap between what Simone can do and what can go to the graduate, or sorry, to the Dean of Academic Students. So many titles around here. So while Dr. Pitt was saying if you have challenges with your advisor, that's also something that the graduate academic counselor often deals with. She works very closely in tandem with the Dean of Students as well. But one thing that she does very specifically is manage the leave of absence process. So if any of you need to take a leave of absence for any reason, there's a process and paperwork, and Simone helps you deal with that with your department or your program. And then she also offers a wealth of wellness support that again is meant to complement things that are offered by other offices on campus, like the counseling center. Her goal is really both to make sure that graduate students know about all of that, but then also to create programming that is specifically tailored to graduate students. And just to kind of give you a sense of what does any of that look like specifically, these are just a few things that we've done this semester alone. So it's a lot to look at, maybe too busy of a slide. But in January, we offered a session about just kind of explaining to graduate students how do universities work. We talked a little bit about budgets. You can still see the slides there. That Go link is still absolutely live. We did that in response to what we'd heard from students in a lot of places, both students going on the academic job market and saying things to us like, why would I be talking to the dean when I go to an academic job interview? People asking things about budgets, etc. So we thought that was actually really effective, and happy to do it again. Simone offers a number of different programs. So this wellness course is a couple of, I can't think it's been, I think it was 2 sessions this semester. The graduate student circles are an opportunity to come together and also address common concerns. She has a theme every month for those. Blessing and Charlotte worked together to do this mentoring workshop that's available for both graduate students and postdocs. So helping you develop those mentoring skills, either in situations you're already in or kind of looking forward. E and I do a lot around academic job market prep. So every June we do a workshop, a 3-day workshop that actually just asks you to come, sit, learn about all the massive number of documents you're going to need to do to pursue an academic job, and actually help you start writing them. This semester we did, we thought start early. So we did a couple of sessions that were for students who were pre-candidacy, just to help students really think about maybe I want an academic job. What is that going to look like? How do I start figuring that planning into my time before I'm almost done? That was incredibly successful. And I'm doing a session next week about communicating your research to broader audiences, which I'll talk a little bit more about. And then we're also, just to highlight, our offices all together, not so much the graduate academic counselor, but the others are doing a career pathways program starting at the end of April, that'll bring together doctoral students with doctoral alums in a kind of short-term mentoring project or program. And I didn't put the link on here, but I can put it in the chat when I'm done talking. So how can you find out about all these is a question I often get. We put them in a number of places. Most of our programs, certainly all of mine, and anything that's open for all students, we put on TerpLink. So all of mine usually go on TerpLink, and all of Simone's usually go on TerpLink. The graduate school website has an events page. Hopefully you all get the biweekly Pathways newsletter that the graduate school sends out. We put most of them on our Instagram page if you're not following us on Instagram, but I would love to know where else we might be sharing them, because I know that information comes at you in all sorts of ways, and looking at your email, etc., can be a challenge. So I would be absolutely open to hearing other suggestions about how we can help make sure that you know about the programming that we do. And then I'm going to talk a little bit specifically about the Center for Writing and Oral Communication. So first I'll say we changed the name a few years ago to reflect that we also offer support for oral communication. The scan code there will take you straight to my website if you want it. We are physically located on the 5th floor of McKeldin, but post-COVID, most of our one-on-one appointments are still virtual, because we discovered that's what graduate students preferred. We have, that's not a picture of our center, that's a picture of a retreat. You might recognize someone in that picture, but I needed a visual. I'll talk first of all about those one-on-one consultations, and then about the other things that I do out of the center. So one-on-one consultations, if you didn't go to your writing center as an undergrad, or you haven't been as a graduate student, those one-on-one consultations are with advanced graduate students. We call them fellows, oral communication fellows if they're working in oral communication, or writing fellows if they're supporting your writing. They're all advanced graduate students, except for programs where there is no PhD. They're all PhD students. have a few master's students in programs that are only master's level. And they're hour-long appointments that you schedule in advance, and we say that they're for your writing or your oral presentations at any stage. So from your brainstorming and needing to pull your ideas together through an early draft or creating an outline, if you like to create outlines, through looking at a version of it after you're tired of looking at it and don't know what to do anymore, to when you've gotten feedback from your advisor and you're not sure what to do with that feedback, to when you've sent it off for publication and you've gotten a revise and resubmit and you're ready to throw it at the wall because you don't know how to make sure that reviewer 1 and reviewer 2 makes sense together. So really anything that you're doing for your graduate career, whether that's papers for class, parts of your dissertation, abstracts and presentations for conferences, any kind of job-related documents, whether those are academic jobs or summer internships or industry jobs. The one thing I say is that the one thing we really kind of don't support is if you're doing anything that's kind of like writing fiction that's not for your graduate career. Then if you're doing an MFA, unfortunately, that's the one thing we can't necessarily support too effectively. But if anything, if you are required to do it or you're doing it as part of your graduate studies, then we are happy to support it. I forgot to mention grant writing and fellowship applications. So whether you're doing internal fellowships, those big external fellowships, we can support all of that. And just say a little bit about what happens at a consultation. I pulled a few images of some of the current fellows. I kind of cut off some of Rasha's. We have fellows from across a pretty wide range of colleges and departments. I don't have someone from every single college currently, but they are all trained to work across disciplines. So they're trained to ask really good questions and be really good readers. So sometimes people want to make an appointment with someone who knows their field because they have some questions about their content, not just their prose. So, if you're in education, I have several fellows from education. Lots of times, though, people will make an appointment with a fellow that they've just met, or then they decide that they jibe with them because, again, they're all really trained effectively to just ask you the good questions. You know how to write. Sometimes what you just need is an audience to give you feedback in a really non-evaluative situation. So honest feedback that is not judgmental that is not your advisor. If you're worried to take things to your advisor because you don't want them to see how rough something is, or you just want to be able to bring them something cleaner, or they don't want to see something until it's clean or a perfect draft, or I hear all sorts of things, just like Dr. Pitt mentioned. Then bringing something to the writing center is the perfect situation. All of your writing, no matter what it is going to get read by readers at some point. And the point of the writing center is to give you that reader in advance of someone who's going to be evaluative and judge you about that writing. And the oral communication support works the exact same way. The fellows in oral communications are both from the communication departments. They have lots of training doing oral presentations, and the same thing. You're a draft of a presentation, you're doing your defense, you're doing a job interview, you're doing a 3MT, hopefully, whatever you have to do out loud as opposed to on paper, they can support. And then I do a whole other range of workshops. Oops, I forgot to move that. A wide range of topics. They're on the website. We also, in addition to one-on-one consultations, we do drop-in hours virtually every Wednesday and every Friday from 12 to 2. The Zoom link is on our website, and you can just drop in, ask a question, take a look at a short document, etc. We also do a lot around just time to write in community. And I was with graduate students this morning in one of those Friday morning write-ins. And I said, what should I tell graduate student government about what happens at the Writing Center? And one of them said, you offer collegial support. And I think that's a great phrase for what happens. The Friday morning write-ins are just that, time to write Friday morning in a virtual community. So you log on anytime between 9 and 11. There'll be other people writing. And so you need to get some things done, but Friday morning is a tough time to do that. We support other kind of writing groups as well. If you are an international student, we offer very explicit editing. So we often say writing centers will typically tell you that we don't do editing in the writing center, right? So we are not there to take your document and fix things, correct mistakes. We will absolutely work with you to do that editing, but it's not a transaction like that. We do, however, for international students, offer English editing. It's actually not done by fellows, it's done by volunteers, many of them retired from industry. But that is a completely asynchronous. You submit your whatever you want to have edited. We send it to the editors, they get it back. We say, give us a week, 5 business days. It often takes far less than that. We offer at the dissertation stage, for when you're at the dissertation stage, we offer a semester-long dissertation success support program that again is very much that collegial support model. It's time to check in with people every week, talk about some of the challenges around writing a dissertation, ask for advice and feedback about writing challenges you might have specifically, but really kind of be there to create that kind of sense of community. We offer writing retreats, usually not during the semester, so over the summer and in January. And then I'm happy to design anything else that students need. So some of the programs that I've done that I enjoy the best come from what students want. So whatever that is, whether it's, gee, I always struggle making those, getting an abstract down from 200 words to 150 words. Or it's something specifically in your department. Often student groups will invite me to come and talk about something very specific to that department. So how do I write an abstract for architecture and urban planning? How do I do presentations in X department? So I'm absolutely happy to do those kind of bespoke or tailored events as well. In fact, I love doing those. And I'll just highlight a couple. These are hot links. Next week, I'm doing a part of a lit review series that I always do with the libraries about reading and note taking. I'm going to point out this communicating your research for broader audience. I'd like to bring this up. I every year try to schedule something that is very clearly in support of students that are going to be presenting at grad. I saw that one of the things that you sent around was kind of trying to figure out who's leading grad. That is something that I personally in my office and the Writing Center more broadly would love to be more involved in or more supportive of in whatever way we can. When I started in this position, we did actually often offer just open sessions for people to come practice their grad talks, etc. So that was very explicitly timed to help people give people a chance to think about, well, I know how to talk about my research in my department, but when I go to grad, it's not going to be just my department. So how do I do that? And then finally, so you know that grad is the week of Graduate Student Appreciation Week. And so we are also doing a kickoff session that Monday, just bagels and a chance to meet each other and talk. I've been told that an invitation has gone out. I was going to say to a special guest, but now everybody's going to think that's Kermit. So I was told President Pines was invited, whether or not he'll be able to come. We'll hold that in 5109 McKeldin, which I also wanted to highlight is a space that many years ago representatives from GSG and helped us obtain through the Student Facilities Fund. So it was a space in the library that the libraries were not using for I think it was the East Asian Journal collection, and it was going to be available space, and the Facilities Fund helped us renovate it, and it is explicitly for graduate student use. So the Writing Center uses it for programming, but you can request access, and it's a nice room that you can lock your stuff in, and no undergraduates can get in there to take the seat before you do. And that is everything I have. So there again is the link for the slides and my email address. I'll leave that up for a second, but I am absolutely happy to answer any questions you might have or talk a little bit more about how we can support grad. Yes, that is the definition of reviewer too, Keegan. How do you support? Exactly. You got them.
Thank you so much, Dr. McCree. And if anyone has any questions, please raise your hand and I'll call on you accordingly. That was incredible.
Thanks.
Michael, go ahead.
I don't have a question. I was just gonna say that I think that the graduate, oh no, Center for Oral and Written Communication
Close
is
enough.
awesome. Close enough. Oh gosh, I'm gonna learn it eventually.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think what your office does is awesome. I definitely encourage everyone to yeah, take advantage of it. If you're doing a dissertation, the dissertation success support kind of program is super great. And yeah, honestly, can't recommend it enough.
Thanks, Michael. Like questions, and again, while you're thinking of questions, I'll just stress again that I do that. I'm happy to. We really try very hard, my whole team, to respond to what graduate students want us to do. Obviously, there's no value in us just kind of giving top-down advice. You get a lot of top-down advice, so most of what we try to do comes from what we hear or see that graduate students we think could benefit from. But we're always happy to have those be things that you tell us directly you want us to do. So,
Thank you for that. Everyone, please make sure to take down this link and share it with your program, with the students in your program, so that everyone has access to this valuable information. I'll leave it open for any other questions. Seeing none. Please join me in thanking Dr. McCree in joining us today and sharing such great information about the services that we need to take advantage of during these times.
thank you so much. And I'm just going to put the here's the link to the mentoring program that was not hot linked on my slides. But great, thank you so much for having me, and enjoy the rest of your meeting.
Absolutely. Thank you. Perfect. Moving right along in our agenda. The next thing that we are to discuss is new business. We have two pieces of legislation, one being an act and one being a resolution. While I pull up both of them, Keegan, do you want to quickly start addressing the act? And I'm pulling it up right now.
Sure thing. So the act is actually, in theory, a somewhat significant one because it suggests modifying the amendments, bylaws amendments, or not modifying the amendments, modifying the bylaws with an amendment. There we are. Words are hard. But it's actually not super serious, and you'll see why. So what this is an act that would merge the grad coordinator position and the chief of staff positions. And some background on this. So the grad coordinator position is a 60-hour a week or 60 hours total contract paid position. And we hire people for every year to basically take point on organizing grad in cooperation with the director of operations. The problem is that every single year we struggle, really struggle to actually hire someone. And this is one of those positions that like we need to hire it early on so that they aren't overwhelmed with work. And the sooner they're hired, the better. And every year it's like the month before, or maybe 2 months before, if we're lucky, we get someone actually hired. So the goal of this is to consolidate that process by merging it with the chief of staff position and increasing the chief of staff's compensation accordingly to compensate. The other purpose of this bill is to get around workday shenanigans, for lack of better words, that cropped up this year. Because we all transitioned to workday on a HR level, there is no possible way for us to hire Ria as the grad coordinator, which was the plan and was voted upon and approved by a grad committee and the executive committee in time for grad, which happens in a week and a half. So in order to actually pay Ria for the work that she's already doing, this is necessary. So yeah, that's a dual purpose. The first one is genuinely because we find that the chief of staff ends up helping a lot anyway, And because the chief of staff is an hourly position as opposed to a GA-ship, we can make modifications to compensation much more easily, which is why this is here. So yeah, that's the basics of it. This is, I should also note, a probably going to be a temporary amendment. I suspect this amendment will be re-amended with the batch of bylaws amendments that are coming next month, because we are restructuring a little bit about how the chief of staff position, we're proposing restructuring how the chief of staff position works in the first place. So this might be more refined by then. But in the meantime, this is a kind of a stopgap measure to make sure that Ray actually gets paid. Yeah, so pretty self-explanatory, hopefully. I am open to questions though, and we do actually still need a sponsor for this bill. So if anyone is willing from the assembly to sponsor it, that would be great.
I have a question.
Sure.
Brandon, higher education representative. I'm curious to know what would a sponsorship look like? Does that just getting behind it?
Yeah, just saying you agree with this. We need at least one sponsor for it to move forward.
I motion to sponsor. Or
all right, appreciate it.
To sponsor.
I think Devon, let's I'll let you do the honors.
I was muted. Perfect. I will make those.
Good old fashioned floor edits. Any other questions about this? Oh, and I will say actually, to preempt any possible questions, because I realized I didn't explain this part, the compensation and workload associated with this is going to be determined through the annual budget. So right now, as I mentioned, it's 60 hours at $21 an hour, I believe, is the going compensation rate. That is for this year. In the future, it'll be whatever the budget is set at. So future assemblies will have a say in that as well.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Keegan. Moving into our next piece of legislation so that we can vote on them together. It is this one, resolution number 6. Rose, do you want to quickly discuss this, the purpose and all that?
Yeah. So this was also in combination with a couple resolutions we passed last meeting. So this is calling on UMD to accept the Duolingo English test as a measure of English proficiency for grads. As you all know, international grads can be accepted to UMD grad programs if they don't quite meet the proficiency requirements with like a like pending, like either retaking the tests or going through the Maryland English Institute courses. We all know Maryland English Institute courses, super expensive. The tests, as we discussed last meeting, are also like not cheap. And the bigger issue seems to be that like these test scores have to be submitted basically within your first semester that you're here. So you're starting a program, you're super busy. And not only that, like you have to retake this test. All of these tests that are accepted currently have to be scheduled in advance. Most of them, you have to go to a physical testing location. There's one of them that is an online test, but you still have to kind of like schedule in advance. And if you try to do that, there's a lot of very limited appointment availability, especially if you're trying to like take it soon. So, this Duolingo English test, I was kind of surprised that it was like a real thing when I first heard about it, but it came up during the pandemic when the in-person testing was really not an option. It's an online test. It specifically, one of the benefits is that it doesn't require appointments. So you don't have to schedule in advance or like try to figure out like how you can work it into your schedule. It's also cheaper than the currently accepted tests. I couldn't find an exact number online, but because like, when you buy it, you have the option of buying one, you can buy like a pack of 2 or something like that. My understanding is it's less than $100 per test. And so cheaper than the other ones that are currently accepted. It's also accepted for undergrads. So if you're an undergrad and you're applying as an international student, they will take these scores. In addition, within the Big Ten, at least within the Big Ten, we have 17, graduate institutions, 10 of them accept this test. So, the majority. And yeah, just generally speaking, like people who aren't as fluent in English, there is a correlation between your kind of socioeconomic status, your ability to pay extra for these things, like as you're growing up, and the fact that you have to continue to pay, for the tests, for the courses. That's a burden on a group that's already kind of like systemically been like had struggles in their lives. Yeah, that's it. I think happy to answer any questions.
Perfect. Thank you for that context, Rose. Also, similarly to the last one, we are missing a sponsor on this. So if anyone wants to sponsor or join in, there could be multiple sponsors. So if anyone would be happy to sponsor, please let me know. Also, I see hands raised. Nora being the first one, Nancy, and then Brandon.
Hi, Nora, Epidemiology, School of Public Health. I'd be happy to sponsor a motion to sponsor Rose's really awesome legislation. Thank you for writing it, Rose.
Thank you for actually acknowledging the motion. Does anyone want to second that?
Second.
Thank you, Brandon. Nancy, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm Nancy from Public Policy. So I was like I was surprised to hear that undergrads this is acceptable, but not for grads. Is that kind of an oversight in the grad school, or is there a reason, or I don't know, like because I feel like it should, like if it's accepted for undergrads, it's yeah.
I'm not aware of any specific reason why it's not accepted for grads versus undergrads. My theory is that a lot of the MEI in the revenue for the MEI comes from grad students. And making tests more accessible will potentially, impact their revenue.
Okay. And is there as a follow-up question, like is there any like proof that the Duolingo test is like, is it easier to for students to like to scam it, or like to get, or like, or is it like, I guess like what's the verification process, like that it's a legitimate score? Or is it like, is there like, is it an accredited test like for language proficiency?
Yeah, I mean, it's accepted at a bunch of other institutions. I listed the Big Ten ones because that's our conference or whatever, and they love to compare us with Big Ten schools. But they're accepted. It's accepted by other grad schools as well. My understanding is that there are like safeguards within the actual like program or test setup to make sure that people aren't like cheating or, somehow, I don't know, yeah, cheating, I guess, to fake their scores or whatever. And then yes, Keegan, that's correct. You do get like this completion certificate, and like that's what you send in to the office.
Brandon.
Just to help answer Nancy's question too, I used to work in admissions here at Maryland, and I posed the same question when I was an admission counselor, basically saying, is this test just easier? And I actually tried doing it myself, and it is quite fast paced. We have learned a lot about it, and it's a lot more accessible, but it's not any easier. They throw a lot of a lot of things your way while you're taking the exam, and it's just more user friendly, honestly, and it's more consistent. I know Rose shared us some information a couple of weeks ago with the percentage of grad students that take it and all of that, and I'm wondering if the percentages were closer to each other from graduates and undergraduates before undergrad admission started accepting the Duolingo test. I'm just thinking about how much more accessible it's been with that. I also am raising my hand because I'd like to sponsor this. I think it's important, um, and yeah, I'd say that this is something that should happen sooner rather than later. Um, do I need to get that seconded, or is it? I'm just
Seconded.
thank you. But also just
So,
stressing how important it is that this is accessible to others. There is no reason. I think that there was just simple oversight or realization that, like, oh yeah, we should do this for grad students as well because it's a department decision, not a university decision. Office of Undergraduate Admissions decided to accept the Duolingo test. The graduate school probably just was never posed or asked to, so I don't think they ever thought to make that initiative without it being raised as a concern. So I'm hopeful that this letter helps with that, and thank you, Rose, for putting in all this work. It's really great, really well written.
thank you, Brandon. Swaroop?
Hi, Swaroop here from ENME. Great work, Rose, on this resolution. I'm trying to play a little bit of a bad cop here so that we know what issues we might face later on. So just to add to that, why undergrad students, it's okay for undergrads but not for grads, because first, this is mostly for TA positions. So they expect the grad students to be able to communicate better with the undergrads, whereas for the undergrads, it's not much of a concern. So we might be asked this question wherever we want to raise this in the future. So we might need to think of something for that. And second thing, yes, Duolingo can be cheated. So that's something also that might be asked against us. So yeah, let's think of some answers to these two questions. And the third thing I want to say is, if you can scroll up on the resolution, uh, wait, line number 29. If you can put it to 4 to 13. I'm sorry, I do a lot of formatting, so you write 4-13 just to mention all the references, I think.
Keegan, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't this the proper way for legislation specifically? For citations?
I mean, it is, yeah, it's the way that we've adopted it at any rate.
Okay.
Because this looks like a really long number to me, so that's why I wanted to just point out.
It is displaying weirdly in Google Docs.
Oh, okay.
There is usually a small space between footnotes.
Okay, then that's fine. Ignore this comment. Thank you.
No, I was thinking the same thing though. Especially when you have like 10, 11, 12, it gets very confusing.
Yeah.
I wanted to add something to what Swaroop just said. So I am all for being the devil's advocate, but so there is a separate requirement for TA-ship as well as for just entry. I am unsure what we're trying to target here, but basically for TA-ship, having such strong requirements is very important, as you correctly said. But even for other positions, like in terms of just being a grad student, there are English requirements that international students need to. So there are basically two different English requirements. One is to be a grad student, and one is a certain minimum cutoffs that you need to have just for being the TA. So those are two different things that should be kept in mind. Of course, we can think of not having this probably for TAs because they need to be able to effectively communicate with their students, which is essential, agreed. But for grad students, I feel like it's not that, like, it is almost equivalent to the rest of it. Currently, even TOEFL, IELTS, all of them have very different difficulty level from what I've heard and what I've experienced myself being an international student. So that's one thing too. So if we can have this as a alternative for even just grad students in general, not just like TAs, like English proficiency for being a grad student over here, I think that would also be great for students. And when it comes to cheating, to be honest, anything can be cheated. But yeah, you go ahead, Saru.
Yeah, I would agree with that. For TH, like I am full on 100% for grad students admission, but I cannot 100% defend for TAs because I'll just give you an example. So my housemate in computer science, he has really good TOEFL scores, but he screwed up in the speaking section, and that is why he had to take the scores to be able to TA. So most of the students generally take the TOEFL test. I'm talking about from India specifically. They take the TOEFL, and if they kind of not have good scores, then they have to go through this. Uh, so I don't know what to feel about it or how to deal with this scenario. So yeah, other inputs, I would really love it.
Agreed.
From my
Brandon, yes.
perspective, Brandon, higher education, although there are going to be requirements, there are going to be higher requirements for anything we do in general as graduate students. I think that the importance of introducing Duolingo as an accepted method of English proficiency is simply to make it more accessible to our students, not to make it easier for our students, but to make it more accessible and more affordable given the amount of cost that international students already have to pay. As we of course know, we have the international student fee. Oftentimes, students that are international are navigating having to like have several thousands of dollars up front for paying rent, with Maryland requiring a lot of places requiring first, last months, and security deposits. So this is as a means of accessibility, and I'm hopeful that my constituents can get behind the importance of accessibility. There are, of course, going to be other things we'll need to hurdle in the future with working with academic departments and becoming able to adjust their requirements to be in favor of the Duolingo exam. For those of you who aren't aware, they give you scores. I think the minimum for undergrads is 120, if I remember correctly. I forget the exact scale, but the TA departments and academic departments can be pushed or have or be requested to explore the option of increasing the required minimum score for TAs. So that is, of course, I think something we can discuss in the future. I don't think it's something that should take up time in today's meeting personally, as it shouldn't be something that hinders our students or our want to make English proficiency tests more accessible and more accepted on campus.
For the purpose of where we are in the agenda, I want to see, so that we have time to get to representative forum, we could either motion to vote on the act followed by the resolution, or we can extend the discussion.
I vote to move forward with voting.
Perfect.
Seconded.
Awesome. Thank you. Perfect. Launching the act first. I'm looking for a lucky number 13, I believe.
For the act, it actually has to be higher. It has to be a 2/3 vote
Okay,
of the current of people currently present. So please do vote.
perfect. As always, if you are an elected representative representing a program, you must vote. You can abstain from the vote, but you are asked to vote.
We have passed the 2/3 of present votes, so.
Perfect. Thank you for letting me know. I will end this poll. Congratulations. It is oh, let me share results. It is unanimous. Thank you all for voting. Quickly moving along, I am launching the vote for the resolution. Oh, huge congratulations to Ria in that case too now. Launching the second poll. Duolingo. That poll is open. As a reminder, please vote. This is the last business we are discussing. I encourage everyone to stay and listen to Representative Forum if they have anything, because questions and conversations may be important to the state of graduate education, graduate students, graduate workers. I encourage everyone to stay, but at this time, we don't have any other business after this vote. And also resolution number 6 also voted unanimously. Perfect. So that concludes new business. Moving forward to Representative Forum. Motion to move to may I call for a motion to move?
Motion to move to Representative Forum.
Perfect.
Second.
Awesome. If you have anything you want to discuss, please raise your hand. Two quick notes that I want to mention before we depart. Where even is this agenda? Sorry, team. Two quick things that I do want to share with everyone. Well, one right now that it's in my mind. I don't know where the agenda is, but Representative Form's the last thing on it. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen. The next meeting that you all should have on your calendar is April 25th, if I'm not mistaken. That sounds about right, that last Friday, yes. April 25th. As of right now, think we initially introduced it as a virtual meeting. The hope is to have it in person with a slight hybrid option for accessibility purposes, similar to last month's meeting. If anyone has any questions or concerns about that, please let us know ASAP, because when you tell me the day before, the day of, it's really impossible to try to accommodate you. And if you cannot attend, please send a proxy in your place. As I previously mentioned, it is extremely important that you have someone representing your program. And it's part of your responsibilities. Again, part of the reason why I did share the toolkit for representatives. Those are my biggest announcements moving forward. Yeah, we'd have to see about that, Brandon. That's part of the whole moving parts. Nothing solidified yet, but I'm just letting you know that there's the possibility that it's in person. We will
Only
try to.
if Brandon gets a salt coffee that he makes.
Discussion. Anyone? Any good updates? Any programs doing incredible work? Nora, go ahead.
Hi, so I met with Dr.